I just got back from the gym, as you can see from my sweaty essence. And every time I go to the gym, I get this feeling that I've created the environment for what is called Wu-Wei. Now, I want to tell you guys about this foundational piece, this foundational concept or philosophy that is part of Zen Buddhism. If you have looked at any of Alan Watts' work, then you'll see he talks about this a lot. I'll let Alan Watts explain basically the two meanings of the word.
Wu means none or not, no, negation. Wei has a combination of meanings. It can mean action, making, but the best translation I have found for it is forcing. And so Wu-Wei is the principle of not forcing in anything that you do.
Basically, whenever I come back from the gym, I feel like I've created or I've unintentionally put myself in the essence of Wu-Wei. And the whole point is that you're not supposed to be forcing. It's this like purposelessness, basically flow. When you see an artist that's just like, or a dancer that's flowing and has no effort but is doing something so beautifully, that's basically Wu-Wei. And it's this thing that it's like you can't even say that you strive for it. So what I want to tell you guys today is to break down this concept in three main pieces so that you can sort of discover for yourself what it would mean to experience Wu-Wei. Because the whole thing is that you can't really strive for it. That's against the whole point. So what I've learned is that it's an environment that you create or a potential that you put around you so that you can exhale into Wu-Wei. The way I view it is Wu-Wei, non-forcing flow, happens in the exhale when you've attuned your instrument to be there. So the first piece in understanding and even recognizing in your own life when you've already, without realizing it, had this flow experience. And one of the best examples I can think of is if you can pinpoint the difference between when you do something because you want to do it versus when you do something because you think you should do it, right? Like that has been one of my biggest struggles this year, is being exposed to other people's path, how they do things, their business, how they run it. And this is so common for a lot of us. Like I'm sure you've experienced before where because you're exposed to how other people have been successful, that this story develops in your mind that's like, oh, they were successful in XYZ way, so I should do that. That is a very different energy. I have a friend, Jenny Edition, shout out, who calls it borrowed energy. Like when you see someone else do something and maybe it's like a little bit of inspiration, but it ends up being this borrowed sense of like, oh, they're doing it, so I should do it too. Next time you have that feeling, pay attention to it. And then think about the next time that you have this urge that comes out of nowhere. Like you're sitting on the couch, or better yet, you were meditating, you were in silence just with yourself, and you get this feeling in you. Like for me, that's every time that I wanna go shuffle, I wanna go dance, it's an original feeling. Like I don't borrow it from anybody. It's an original want, an original desire. And there's a very there's a very distinct difference between those two energies. And the latter energy of doing something because you want to do it is what you should pay attention to. That is a close way for you to notice when you're feeling the concept of Wu-Wei. The reason why Wu-Wei is something to ironically strive for, it's more so something to set up an environment for, is because in my view, and I think that Buddhism, ancient Buddhism would reflect this, when you put yourself in that environment, you're getting out of your own way. This second piece, right? Getting out of your own way. First of all, maybe it's like, how is that even possible? How do you get out of your own way? Like, I'm one freaking entity. How does that even work? We have our ego mind, right? think of it as like that voice in the back of your head that sometimes is the cause of like confidence and being cocky about something, but also can be the voice of doubt and fear because it wants you to stay safe. That's sort of like the basic intro 101 to your ego. So getting out of your own way is when the ego doesn't have a talking point. Like the ego doesn't have a seat at the table when you get out of your own way. So the reason why that's fantastic is because when we're in that flow state, then, bear with me, that's when you get closer to something that's divine. Anytime you've written an essay or been talking to a friend and you lose track of time, like to me, we're getting into the frequency of something greater, of something that is really our true nature, which is divine, right? Like everything that you see around us, like literally everything out here, okay, minus any man-made things that you see. This is a bad view. Hold on. Okay, the view in the yard is just not it right now, but there's, my point is there's greenery and nature all in sort of shot of nature for what I'm saying right now. Everything you see around you is made from the same source, right? Like I'm eventually going to do a video on oneness, but the basic concept is that if you roll back the clock like thousands and thousands of years ago, eventually you're going to get to a point where everything came from one piece of dust, if you will. So when the ego shuts off and we get out of our own way, we're allowing ourselves to be in that true nature. Like we're allowing ourselves to be what we really are. What happens when you get out of your own way, when you make the ego shush for a moment, is that you can hear a lot more clearly the voice that wants you to grow. The creative voice, the flow voice, the you, the higher self that you hear speak to you in certain scenarios. That voice is louder and a lot more clear when you get out of your own way, when you're in flow, right? Because the ego always likes to take a front seat and tries to make up these stories of things we should do, how we're supposed to do it, and it's bullshit. Like, it's not true. These are the picked up subconscious beliefs that we have to heal. So the whole point is that we want to get out of our own way so that we can experience our true self and we can experience a level of creativity and flow that is a magnet to our higher self, to the life that we know we can achieve, but we have to just clear the waters, right? There's this beautiful saying, or this beautiful quote from an ancient Buddhist teacher. I need to find it. By Mumen Yamada Roshi. He said, "To find the jewel, one must calm the waves. It is hard to find if one stirs up the water. Where the waters of meditation are clear and calm, the mind jewel will be naturally visible." And then the author continues to explain, "Most people would jump into the water if the jewel were dropped in a pond and stir up the water until it becomes too cloudy to find anything but stones or tiles. A wise man would wait for the water to become calm so that the jewel naturally comes to shine by itself. Zen discipline is the same. The more you try to know Zen principles by reading books, the farther you move from the Buddha nature. If you try to reach awareness by sitting without wondering, however, the jewel of Buddha nature will begin to shine by itself, and you will realize the real self for which you have been searching." So the point is, if we spend a lot of time in that forcing state of mind, in that forcing state of nature, you're muddying the waters. And so the point of creating an environment where Wu-Wei can exist is that we calm the waters and we can hear our true self and we can feel the difference, the different feeling between should and want. That's why you want to create that environment, because anything that you desire for yourself is going to be a lot louder and easier to get to if you've calmed the waters, right? Please hold while I shower before I tell you part number 3, because I'm smelly. If you meditate to Rufus Du Sol remixes, you're gonna go to space. I'm just telling you. Okay. Just kidding. I'm not taking you in the shower. It's time for Milan and I's daily sunset walk. Look at those clouds. Milan and I have committed to doing a daily sunset walk. Isn't that right?
Yep.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day. Butterfly. That's a butterfly. But it scared me. Okay. Hello, we're back. Yesterday I was like, I'm gonna take a shower and then keep explaining. And I went on with my night because I was in the moment. Anyway, we're back and I'm gonna finish explaining this last point about Wu-Wei and how to create the environment so that Wu-Wei can take place. Because like I said, it's about non-forcing. So you can't force it, it has to just happen. The purest, most beautiful moments come from when we do things totally spontaneously and we're just in that moment. What I like to call, and what Buddhism likes to call, the eternal now. This idea of Wu-Wei is creating the environment where you can delve into the eternal now. You know how people really like getting up early in the morning, right? Like today I got up on the earlier side for me while the early morning sun was doing its thing. And I realized that the reason why that time of day is so precious is because nothing is demanding you quite yet. When you get up earlier than you have to get up, you create this environment where you're allowed to just relax. You can sip your morning tea, your morning coffee so calmly. You can meditate, you can do breath work. There's less noise, right? Like there's less energy fluttering around, literally because less people are awake. Like that's why the early morning hours are truly divine. And so creating an environment to experience Wu-Wei is essentially that, right? Is putting yourself in situations where you feel really nourished. Like I feel in flow after I go to the gym because I literally just flooded my body with endorphins. Like I literally just made myself feel so good and I pumped my body full of a chemical that it produces on its own, right? So I didn't really intentionally say, hey, do this thing in my body. It just happened from nature. And so when the wind blows by and flutters a little plant, that's Wu-Wei, right? When you exhale and suddenly, as if no effort, sink into the couch, that's Wu-Wei, right? Like you're not really trying, but it happens because you created the environment for it. And so the idea is to put yourself in situations where you can be in the eternal now, when you can feel like there is nowhere for you to be except for right here. I wrote something down that I wanted to share. Just so in the eternal now that she lost her phone. Wait, this is actually very strange. What the Okay. This is what I wrote yesterday after the gym because I was just feeling so good. Remember that first shot of me sweating and feeling the vibe? That was me. Feeling good. So, Wu-Wei is about non-forcing, being in flow, and the practice of channeling is what sets the environment for flow to take place, right? Channeling is when you intentionally say, hello, guides, angels, other powers, please flow through me, speak through me, I'd like to hear your message. And the whole point is that you can't force flow, right? But you can tune the instrument so that once you exhale, magic takes place. And what you're gonna learn is that your body and soul and mind is a divine instrument. It all needs nourishment. And so what goes in matters for the health of the vehicle. And if you want your vehicle to thrive and run well, you have to fuel it, right? So the concept of Wu-Wei, if there is any way to quote unquote make it happen, which is kind of a contradiction in and of itself, the point is to nourish your vehicle, right? Care for this vessel that you have so that once you exhale, magic can happen. And I promise to you, if you try to create that environment simply by setting that intention, you will open yourself up to such a beautiful frequency of creativity, of love, of abundance, of gratitude. The energy of flow is something so beautiful, and the reason why it's so beautiful is because you can't force it, so you almost have to catch yourself in it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. And if there's anything that you don't understand or you have a question about or you just want to say hi, drop a comment. I'd love to hear from you.